Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. The cryptocurrency space has a rather long history with and about billionaires, where two sides of the equation have both taken place. We've seen billionaires who hate us and billionaires who love us. This is normally the trend that we've seen has kind of gone. At some point, some of these billionaires despised us. And then we found out that a lot of them had actually been in the cryptocurrency space for a long amount of time and were simply telling other people not to buy Bitcoin while they were buying Bitcoin for much lower numbers. And then they told everyone else that they loved Bitcoin when they probably were full, as it were. I'm not sure if this person is actually one of them. It's more for context in that. I find it still quite interesting how many very wealthy individuals continue to come out of the woodworks to talk about exactly how amazing and awesome and beautiful and lovely Bitcoin actually is. So we are currently in a situation where, one, I told you I'm going to keep saying it until we get there just because it's a little mind-boggling that we're not. We're still not at the halving at the time of me making this video. Wonderful. Fantastic. The other part is that the accumulation that we're currently seeing is completely off the charts. We normally do not see this level of price rises until around 9 months after the halving. That's 9. So the number 8 and then the number 9. Everyone got it? Just wanted to make sure that we were all on the exact same page. The interesting part is that the narrative is changing very quickly. So a couple of years ago, when Bitcoin was falling in price and had kind of stabilized, if you've been here before, we had a couple of months where Bitcoin's price was literally like, it was going like this, but it wasn't going like this, if that kind of makes any sense. A lot of the news then was that Bitcoin was shaping up to be the digital gold that we've all been waiting for it to be. But that was more of a weird push by a lot of people who were simply throwing out news that they thought that Bitcoin's price was never going to rise again. You might remember this was around the $22,000 to $29,000 price range, where for some reason a lot of people and a lot of YouTubers kept on talking about, well, that's it. Bitcoin's price is never going to rise again. I also have a very close friend. Hello. You know who you are. I doubt he's watching. But I had a conversation with him in 2022, and he believed that the market was never going to recover again. I'm pretty sure he himself was in like the depression phase of the actual like market cycles and stuff like that, because he was convinced that we were never going to see Bitcoin's price rise again. And can you guess who's the biggest Bitcoin bull now? This guy is like obsessed with Bitcoin once again. When people talk about the end of cycles, it basically means that we are seeing, we've broken the previous cycles. If it takes us 9 months to previously get to, the actual previous all-time high, and we've gotten there before the halving, and to be gigantically fair, it is impossible for any market to hear the amount of accumulation that we've been having tied to an asset that is as rare as Bitcoin. It's the only thing that logically makes sense. If more Bitcoin could be produced in mass, if there wasn't a 21 million Bitcoin, if it was 700 million, it would all make a lot more sense. 21 million, tons of other millions gone, 19 million mined. You get the idea. However, a lot of the news floating around now is people talking about kind of like an infinite cycle. We went over this maybe 2 months ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, where there are a lot of people who were saying that if we actually got the ETFs, we could then see a world where cycles don't end or don't drop down as much as people assumed. That is to say, we typically see 2 years going up, 2 years going down, 2 years going up, 2 years going down. But we're at the point where, once again, we're 9 months ahead. This level of accumulation, we can only assume, is going to continue to increase. Nothing in logic tells any of us that BlackRock, Fidelity, Kathy Wood, are going to stop accumulating Bitcoin ever at this point. The more they accumulate, the higher the price goes. The higher the price goes, the more it benefits them. They're logically inclined to continue buying more. A lot of people, these like very popular analysts within the space, and this one, and I have a problem with the way that these people are actually introduced. A lot of times in the cryptocurrency space, the articles or the news about them will not simply say like name. It'll introduce them as this guy is being introduced as billionaire Bill Ackman. But they say that all the time. I mean, every single article has billionaire Elon Musk or billionaire Jamba Juice. What's that guy's name? The Warren Buffett. Him and the guy who made Microsoft. I don't know why I can never remember their names. I literally don't understand. If you watched my other channel as well, The Modern Investor, the last 2 weeks have had a very peculiar type of news floating around it, and it has to do with the idea of like impending economic collapse. This was a lot of like the fear-based news that we got in 2020, 2021, where you remember, every article that was floating around was recession, depression, whatever other word actually has the eshin at the end of it. And it was the idea that the economy is getting ready to tank. It's going down. We're definitely going to have something crazy. And I made sure as well, I think like 4 people watched it. I made a video on here as well where I like showed you that these same people who've been screaming into the skies have been screaming into the skies for a very long time, that the economy is going to collapse. And so we also went over the idea of the U.S. debt and how it's never going to be paid back, but neither is the debt of any other country. Bill Ackman has been in the news, and he's talking about, now it's going to sound a lot a bit crazy, not a little bit. He believes that based off of his information, that Bitcoin might actually go up indefinitely. Hold it, let me try to explain. He says that because of the shift in the cycles, because of the idea that, and we've seen this happening, as people sell their Bitcoin, everyday normal people sell it onto the market when they're afraid it gets scooped up. Usually more than likely by whales. We've had this news for years. This is pre-BlackRock. Not even mentioning BlackRock. As more institutions and more companies get into the space, this is only going to accelerate. If there's only 21 million apples, 21 million bananas, or 21 million US dollars in the world, and someone decides to sell one, half of one, a portion of one, there's going to be someone else who wants that dollar, who wants those apples, who wants those bananas. I don't know why I said apples and bananas. I think I'm kind of hungry once again. I know it's a very common theme in the videos, but just stick with me. If we keep seeing that happening, as we currently know right now, there are other countries who are also trying to make spot Bitcoin ETFs. I mean, like multiple other ones who are currently also doing it, who already have them. If we get to a $100,000 Bitcoin plus, the idea of Bitcoin will be solidified in people's minds as I need some, gotta have it, I wish I had more kind of thing. If there ever is a dip, you will basically be competing not only with several 100 million other people, but when we get to that illustrious billion Bitcoin users, you'll be competing with them to buy those satoshis that have hit the market once again. People will be less inclined to sell their Bitcoin because they keep seeing the chart that the prices keep going up. Why would I want to sell my Bitcoin, put any of it back onto the market when I know that the price potentially can continue going back up all over again? That's his idea, and this is kind of the idea from a lot of other people. I'm not sure if you saw Kathy Wood and a bunch of other people. I know I keep whatever. Anyway, have like changed their Bitcoin price predictions for the next like 5.5 years. It's just, the numbers are a little bit crazy. We can say it out loud. Where it's like no longer do they expect by 2029 like a $900,000 Bitcoin. They're now talking about like multiple millions of dollars. And then you hear the number and you go, well, that sounds insane. And And then you go, well, so is the idea of BlackRock having accumulated over 200, almost 300,000 Bitcoin in a very short amount of time. For those of you who weren't here a couple of weeks ago, if this level of accumulation continues by August time, BlackRock and Fidelity will have over 1 million Bitcoin. That's still 2024. What happens in 2025? I don't expect these companies to stop buying. And even if they slowed it on down to just 1 Bitcoin a day across 450 companies, that's still the entirety of all the Bitcoin mined that day just going to them. So he said, and I quote a scenario, Bitcoin's price rise leads to increased mining and greater energy use, driving up the cost of energy, causing inflation to rise and the dollar to decline, driving demand for Bitcoin and increased mining, driving demand for energy, and the cycle continues. He says Bitcoin goes to infinity. Infinity. The next word is energy for my. It says Bitcoin goes to infinity. Energy prices skyrocket and the economy collapses. Maybe I should buy some Bitcoin. I think I've gotten to a point in my crypto journey where, how do I say this without sounding completely insane? Years ago, the idea of a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 Bitcoin didn't make a lot of sense. Bitcoin having $1 trillion market cap, I thought people were insane. The idea of any one company holding over 1% of all the Bitcoin, far-fetched. Because I assumed, if you remember, in 2019, I remember saying, I was like, I think in 20 years, a lot of this stuff can happen. I think in the next couple of decades, we can see the amount of interest like hyper increasing. I wasn't expecting all of this stuff to take place between 2020 and 2024. Bitcoin's been around for 15 years. That means at the 11-year point, we started seeing this hyper acceleration. And even where we are right now, for those of you who don't know, the year is like not even halfway done. So infinitely question mark. But I think we're setting ourselves up for some really weird price increases that I think no one's ready for. There's a couple of places on Twitter, a lot of people on Twitter, who are posting charts based off of the movements of the previous bull runs, where this bull run could go. And they usually always write something along the lines of like, no one's ready, no one's prepared, no one's ready for where Bitcoin's going to go. And then you look at the charts, and a lot of them have like conservative numbers. And that's kind of what like makes me think really weird about this market cycle, because remember in the other video, this was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was another video where someone was comparing previous cycles and how long it took for this price to get to that number. That's why I said we're around the point where we wouldn't get here for 9 months. And they were showing that after the halving takes place, in a 3-month period, a 6-month period, a 9-month period, Bitcoin's price goes up anywhere from 33 to 88%. And I wonder exactly where we're going to go, because that's over the course of the year of the halving, 2024. And then the 2025 numbers, it's completely in the sky. But when you see these people, the charts that they have, and they show Bitcoin going to around 150 to 200 this year, and then us getting to a 300, 400 something $1,000 Bitcoin next year. And then you talk about when we have that perceived number of Bitcoin, a Bitcoin being worth more than property, than real estate, you then get into another realm of people seeing that they need to buy more Bitcoin, because in no uncertain terms, it is then easier to own Bitcoin than it is to actually own real estate. So that then also shifts the minds of people and brings us closer to hyperbitcoinization, where the idea of having an entire Bitcoin, seeing it go to 300,000, which is roughly the cost of a home, a studio apartment, or a mega mansion, depending on where you live in the world, then becomes, if that happened this cycle, where does it go next cycle? Kind of, that's an entirely different topic. But yeah, the promise and discussions of hyperbitcoinization are really leading the charge right now. And I say this as the last point. I kind of believe a lot of it. You might think I'm crazy, but time will continue. BlackRock is a company, as is Fidelity, as is MicroStrategy. They're going to continue buying Bitcoin. We have another 115 years of mining Bitcoin. The supply continues to decrease. You might not think about it, but if you could have in 2014, remember what Bitcoin's price was, like a couple $100s? Could you have foreseen that we're on the cusp 10 years later of going to $100,000 Bitcoin? Where are we then 10 years from now? I know the year 2034 sounds something very sci-fi, but we will eventually get there. These companies will still be buying and Bitcoin will be scarcer than ever. Those are the years, for those of you who don't know, people are predicting a minimum of $5 to $10 million per Bitcoin. So, yeah, math, just the way that it works based off of supply and demand. We even know that based on current numbers. We're talking about, it's estimated that around 50 to 100 million people are into Bitcoin. 50 million to 100 million. It's estimated that eventually we will see more people getting into the market and everyone's waiting for the billion Bitcoin users. We're probably more than likely going to see $1 million Bitcoin faster than a lot of people are expecting. And that's with a billion people in the market, in the Bitcoin space. What happens when we get to 2.5 billion? How high is Bitcoin? And like, it's not just double. It's not just double then. It's something extremely extravagantly higher. Yeah. Gotta stack those sats. Yeah. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.